She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a spy. She was a secretary, armed only with a typewriter. And yet, this ordinary woman helped sabotage the Nazi war machine. She risked everything, leaving behind no weapons, no battlefield victories, only papers, ink, and secrets that could topple Hitler's empire. This is the forgotten story of Christa T. Schroeder. The woman who fought Hitler with a typewriter. When we think of World War II, we picture soldiers storming beaches, tanks rolling across Europe, and bombs falling from the sky. But behind the noise of war, another battle was being fought. One waged not with guns, but with information. The Nazi regime thrived on secrecy, propaganda, and control. Breaking that control meant finding cracks in the system. And sometimes, those cracks came not from generals or spies, but from the people working quietly in the offices of power. Among them was a woman whose name is rarely remembered. She sat just meters away from Adolf Hitler himself. She typed his speeches, his orders, and his propaganda. But secretly, she began to resist, using her position to weaken the very machine she was helping to build. Her name was Christa Schroeder, and her story reveals how even the smallest acts of defiance can change the course of history. Christa T. Schroeder was born in 1908 in Germany. Like many young women of her time, she learned shorthand, typing, and office management. She wasn't a revolutionary. She wasn't a political radical. She was simply a skilled secretary, looking for work in a country where opportunities were scarce. In 1933, her life took an unexpected turn. Adolf Hitler had just seized power, and Schroeder was recruited into his staff as a secretary. It was supposed to be an ordinary job. Instead, it placed her in the center of the most terrifying dictatorship the world had ever seen. Day after day, she sat in Hitler's offices, typing his letters, his decrees, his propaganda speeches. She heard his private rants, saw his daily moods, and watched as his power grew. Few people outside his inner circle ever got so close to the Führer. And yet, rather than embrace his ideology, Schroeder began to see the truth, the lies, the brutality, the madness. At first, Schroeder played her role. She typed orders without question. She listened, observed, and stayed silent. But what she witnessed disturbed her. She saw Hitler's paranoia grow. She watched him dismiss his generals. She noticed the way he ranted for hours, rewriting speeches filled with hatred and lies. Unlike many of her colleagues, Schroeder was not blinded by ideology. She began secretly keeping notes, small details about meetings, dates, and orders. She hid them carefully, knowing that discovery meant certain death. Over time, she realized her proximity to Hitler was not just a curse. It was an opportunity. With a typewriter and access to Nazi secrets, she could do something extraordinary. Resist. How could a secretary resist one of the most powerful dictators in history? The answer was subtle, but effective. Schroeder began quietly delaying documents. She misfiled orders, buying time for others. She occasionally introduced small errors in documents that confused Nazi bureaucrats. These weren't mistakes. They were acts of sabotage. More importantly, she used her memory. Schroeder had an extraordinary gift for recalling details. She remembered conversations, coded phrases, even the sequence of orders. Later, this knowledge would prove vital to Allied interrogators who needed to understand Hitler's inner circle. Her typewriter became a double-edged sword, a tool for spreading Nazi propaganda, but also a weapon for undermining it. Working for Hitler was dangerous for anyone. but for someone secretly resisting, it was deadly. Schroeder lived in constant fear. Hitler trusted almost no one, and betrayal within his circle was punished brutally. She knew one wrong move, one misplaced word, could mean execution. She often accompanied Hitler on trips, even to his mountain retreat in Berghof. While others dined, laughed, and praised him, she sat silently, watching. She noticed his strange habits, his obsessive control, and his inability to trust anyone. Her proximity gave her unique insight. Hitler was not invincible. He was deeply insecure, paranoid, and unstable. But Schroeder's greatest challenge was hiding her true feelings. She had to play the loyal secretary while secretly despising the man she worked for. By 1945, the Third Reich was collapsing. The Allies closed in from the west, the Soviets from the east. Inside Hitler's bunker in Berlin, panic spread. Schroeder was there. She watched as Hitler ranted, refusing to accept reality. She typed his final testaments and orders, even as the world outside crumbled. When Hitler took his own life in April 1945, Schroeder's role in the Nazi machine ended. She was arrested by Allied forces, but instead of punishment, she became a crucial witness. During interrogations, Schroeder provided detailed accounts of Hitler's behavior, his decision-making, and his crumbling leadership. She revealed information no general, no spy, no outsider could have known. Her testimony helped the world understand not just how Hitler ruled, but how he fell. After the war, Schroeder lived quietly in Germany. She wrote memoirs, though they were not widely known. Unlike generals and politicians, she received no fame, no recognition. To many, she was just a secretary. But the truth is far greater. Krista Schroeder's work, her small acts of sabotage, her careful memory, her survival, gave the world vital insight into the Nazi regime. She didn't carry a rifle. She didn't storm a battlefield. Yet her typewriter, her silence, and her courage made her one of the many invisible figures who resisted tyranny from within. Krista Schroeder's story forces us to reconsider what resistance means. It's not always about dramatic battles or heroic speeches. Sometimes it's about ordinary people, secretaries, workers, doctors, parents, who refuse to surrender their conscience. Her story also reminds us that history is not only shaped by those in power, but also by those who dared, quietly, to resist them. The typewriter she once used to spread lies became, in her hands, a symbol of truth and survival. Krista Schroeder was the woman who fought Hitler with a typewriter. She was not remembered as a hero, nor celebrated in textbooks. But her courage, her defiance, and her survival helped shine a light on one of history's darkest chapters. Her life reminds us that even in the face of tyranny, small acts of resistance matter. They can delay, disrupt, and sometimes change the course of history. History is filled with forgotten heroes like Krista Schroeder, people who fought not with weapons, but with courage. If you want to uncover more hidden stories like this, subscribe and join me on this journey. Because sometimes the quietest voices in history are the ones that echo the loudest.